Okay, so the first assigned topic of mine is under the foreign policy of the Philippines, under the primary sources. So here, the Foreign Service Act of 1952, it is an act of to reorganize and strengthen the foreign service of the Philippines. So, ano siya ang Republic Act number 708. So, in the year of June 5, 1952. So, it is a land bank legislation that established the Philippine Foreign Service as a professional diplomatic corps enacted in June 5, 1952. This law marked a significant milestone in the country's history, so shaping the Philippines' diplomatic relations and international engagements. So, there are several sections under Aninga Republic Act. So, it is also being enacted by the Senate of the House of Representatives of the Philippines in Congress assembled. So, naa siya Title 1. So, ang Title 1, nakabutang diri is ang General Provision. So, under sa Section 1, Title of Act, so this act shall be known as the Foreign Service Act of the Philippines. Sa Section 2, diri nakabutang ang mga objectives, and the Congress hereby declares that the objectives of this act are to reorganize and strengthen the foreign service of the Philippines so there are few objectives under aning section. Okay, so here, first is to enable rather the foreign service effectively to serve abroad in the interest of the Republic of the Philippines or the interest of the Republic of the Philippines. And the second is to ensure that the officers and employees of the Foreign Service are broadly representative of the Filipino people and are aware of and fully informed in respect of current trends in the Philippine life. So the third one is to provide improvements in the selection and training of personnel to ensure that only competent persons of good moral character are recruited into the service. So katulang dak mga competent persons or have a good moral character are being recruited into the service. Then the fourth one is to provide the promotions in the service shall be on the basis of merit. Next, to provide guarantees that career personnel of the service shall be permanent and secure in their positions during good behavior and satisfactory performance of duty. Next is to provide salaries, allowances, and benefits that will permit the service to draw its personnel from all walks of Philippine life and to appoint persons to the highest positions in the service solely on the basis on their demonstrated ability. Next is to provide a flexible and comprehensive framework for the direction of the foreign service in accordance with modern practices in public administration. And the last one is to codify into one act all provisions of law relating to the administration of the foreign service. So, moato siya ang under sa section 2 or moato siya ang mga objectives sa section 2. Here sa section 3, nakabutang diri ang ilahang mga definitions. When used in this act, the term government means the government of the Philippines. And then the president means the president of the Philippines. Then the department means the Department of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines, or muna siya ang DFA. or DFAP. Next, Secretary means the Secretary of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines. Service means the Foreign Service of the Philippines. Government agencies means any executive department, mm, bureau, board, agent, uh, commission, or other agency in the executive branch of the Philippine government, rather, or any corporation owned or controlled by the government of the Philippines. Next, abroad means all areas outside the territory of the Philippines. Sunod, principal officer means the officer in charge of an embassy, legation, or other diplomatic mission, or of a consulate general, consulate, or vice consulate of the Philippines. The last one is the chief of mission, means a principal officer appointed by the President of the Philippines with the consent of the Commission on Appointments to be in the charge of an embassy or legation or other diplomatic mission of the Philippines, or any other person assigned under the terms of this act to be minister resident, charge the affairs, commissioner, or diplomatic agent. So, next is the title to the foreign service. So, naani siya part, uh, naani siya few parts. So, sa part A, mo ni ilahang functions and duties. Sa section 1, ilahang duties, officers and employees of the foreign service shall, under the direction of the secretary, represent abroad the interest of the Philippines and shall perform the duties and comply with the obligations resulting from the nature of their appointments or assignments or those imposed on them by law or by any order or regulation issued pursuant to law or by any international agreement to which the Republic of the Philippines is a party. Then the section 2, ang ilahang services for government agencies. So the officers and employees of the Foreign Service shall, under such regulations as the President may prescribe, perform duties and functions in behalf of any government agency or any other establishments of the government requiring their services, including those in the legislative and judicial branches, but the absence of such regulations shall not preclude officers and employees of the service from acting for and on behalf of any such government agency or establishment whenever it shall, through department, request their services. So the part B, ang ilahang categories of personnel. Sa section 1, nadiri ang ilang mga classifications. No, the personnel of the service shall consist of the following categories of officers and employees. So, here chiefs of mission who shall be appointed or assigned in accordance with the provision of this act. Sunod, foreign affairs officers who shall be appointed in accordance with the provision of this act. Foreign service staff officers and employees who shall include all personnel who are citizens of the Philippines and not comprehended under paragraphs A, B, and E of the section, and who shall occupy positions with technical administrative, fiscal, clerical, or custodial responsibilities. Next is the alien clerks and employees who shall be appointed in accordance with the provisions of this act and the regulations that may be issued thereunder. And the last is the consular agents and honorary consuls. So sa part C, ang ilahang mga salaries. Section 1, Chiefs of Mission. The President shall, for salary purposes, classify into 3 classes. So, nasa tulo ka classes, Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. The positions which are to be occupied by chiefs of mission. The basic salaries of chiefs, of mission per annum shall be as follows. So, sa Class 1, Ang ilahang salary diri is 12,000 pesos. Sa class 2, 11,000 pesos. And sa class 3, 10,000 pesos. So sa section 2, foreign affairs officers. There shall be 4 classes of foreign affairs officers, excluding the class of career minister. The basic salary of a career minister per annum shall be 8,400 pesos. The basic salaries of foreign affairs officers per annum within each of the other classes shall be as follows. Sa class 1, 7,500 pesos. Class 2, 6,600 pesos. Up to 7,200 pesos or 6,900 pesos rather. Then sa class 3, 5,400, 5,700 up to 6,000. Then sa class 4, 4,500, 4,800 up to 5,100. So sa section 3, salaries at which foreign affairs officers may be appointed. A person appointed as a foreign affairs officers of class 4 shall be receive a salary at that one of the rates provided at the class by the preceding section, which the secretary shall, taking into consideration his age, qualifications, and experience, determined to be appropriate. B. A person appointed as a foreign affairs officer of class 2 and 3 inclusive shall be received salary at the minimum rate provided for the class to which he has been. Diri sa section 4 as Unisha Gamay, staff officers and employees. There shall be 6 classes of foreign service staff officers and employees, referred to the hereafter as staff officers and employees. The basic salaries of staff officers and employees per annum shall be as follows. So, 4,500, 3,720, 3,120, 2,580, 1,800, 1,440. This is section 5, salaries at which foreign service staff officers and employees may be appointed. So a person appointed as a staff officer or employee in classes 1 through V inclusive shall receive salary at the minimum rate provided for the class to which he is appointed, except as otherwise provided in this act. So, Section 3, salaries of alien clerks and employees. So, the salary of or compensation of an alien clerk or employee shall be fixed by the secretary in accordance with such regulations as he shall prescribe pursuant to the provision of his act. No, then within limits of the Appropriation Act, giving due weight to the rank and duties of the clerk or employee and the prevailing rates of salary at the post. Then Section 7, the administrative establishment of salary differentials. And dito na ta sa Part D. No? So sa Part D, compensation of officers temporary in charge. So sa Section 1, diri ang mga as charge the affairs and interim. So muna siya. Section 2, as officer in charge of consulate general or consulate. Then sa Part E, classification. Section 1, classification of positions in the foreign service. This will be the under such regulations as he may prescribe. The secretary shall classify all positions in the service, including those positions at foreign posts which may be held by career ministers. Then, it also provided in case the present incumbent receives a salary more than the amount fixed in this act. So here the title 3. Last one, appointments and assignments. So, part A, uh, principal diplomatic representatives. Section 1, appointments. A. The President shall, with the consent of the Commission on Appointments, appoint ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls. The President may, in his discretion, assign any foreign affairs officer to serve as minister resident, charge the affairs commissioner or diplomatic agent for such period as the public interests may require. Section 2, list of foreign affairs officers qualified to be the career minister or chief of mission to be furnished to the president. A. The secretary shall, on the basis of recommendations made by the board of the Foreign Service from time to time, to furnish the president with the names of foreign affairs officers qualified for appointment to the class of career ministers, together with the pertinent information about such officers, but no person shall be appointed to be the class of career minister who has not been appointed to serve as a chief of mission or assigned to serve in a position which, in the opinion of the secretary, is of comparable importance. And B, the secretary shall also, on the basis of recommendations made by the board of the Foreign Service, from time to time, furnish the president with the names of foreign affairs officers qualified appointment or assignment as a chief of mission, together with the pertinent information about such officers, in order to assist the president in selecting qualified candidates for appointment or assignment in such capacity. Siya ang under sa section 2. Then there is section 3. Officer does not lose career status. Notwithstanding the provisions of the foregoing section, any foreign affairs officer appointed to the position of career minister or chief of mission shall not lose his career status and may not be separated from the service except under and for any of the causes provided in this act. That's the mga sections and parts and mga titles also under sa Republic Act number 708 on June 5, 1952, or the Foreign Service Act of 1952. So ang aim day ani nga Foreign Service Act of 1952, ang aimed ani nga act is to enable the Foreign Service to effectively serve the interests of the Republic of the Philippines abroad. And sa historical context kasi, following the country's independence from the United States in 1946, the Philippines sought to assert its sovereignty and establish its presence in the global arena. The Foreign Service Act of 1952 was a response to this need. Saan siya ka response ani nga mga need, no, aiming to create a modern, efficient, and effective diplomatic service. So naapod niyo siya significance, no? So the significance of the Foreign Service Act of 1952 holds profound significance in the Philippine history. It professionalized diplomacy, enhancing the country's global representation and asserting sovereignty after colonial rule. Rule by establishing clear foreign policy objectives and guidelines. The act fostered economic cooperation, cultural changes, and international understanding. And additionally, it laid the groundwork for future foreign policy legislation influencing subsequent mm, laws like Republic Act 7157 uh, and sa year nga 1991 and Republic Act 9225 sa year nga 2003. Then overall, the act marked a pivotal moment in the Philippines' transition to independence, shaping its diplomatic identity and international relationships. Okay, so for the next assigned topic of mine is the Foreign Service Act of 1991. Republic Act number 7042, also known as the Foreign Investments in the Philippines. So this will be the foreign investments in the Philippines. The act allows for foreign investors to invest up to 100% equity in domestic market enterprises, but also sets restrictions. There are restrictions. Nagset sila og restrictions about ani na Foreign Service Act. And the goal of this law is to encourage foreign investors to provide employment opportunities and develop resources, increase the value of exports, and help fuel the overall economy. And the foreign investments negative lists. So, kumbaga, FINL. So, it is a list of areas or activities that set limits on foreign ownership. It is also divided into two lists. So, the list A and the list B. So, what is covered in List A? So, the covered in List A, it consists of areas of investments reserved for Philippine nationals. The Philippine constitutions restricts foreign ownership in some of these um, investments areas to a maximum of 40%. Foreign ownership is prohibited in the following areas. So, there are following areas nga prohibit sa ownership sa foreign. So, these are the following areas: the mass media, except recording, practice of licensed professions, retail trade, cooperatives, and the last one is the private security agencies. Then there are also a limited foreign ownership is allowed in the following areas rather. So, mao ni sila: private radio communication networks, private recruitment, advertising, ownership of private lands and condominium units, exploration, development, and utilization of natural resources. So, sunod is the list B. So, what is covered in list B? So, the covered in list B indicates limits in foreign ownership of reasons of security, defense, risk to health and morals, and protection of small and medium-scale enterprises. They are also include but are not limited to. So, mo ni sila um, manufacture rather, repair, storage, and or distribution of products and or ingredients requiring Philippine National Police or the PNP clearance such as firearms, gunpowder, and dynamite. The next is the manufacture, repair, storage, and or distribution of products and or ingredients requiring Department of National Defense or DND clearance such as guns and ammunition for warfare, gunnery, bombing, fire control systems, and military communication equipment. The next one is the telescopic sights, sniper scopes, and other similar devices. all forms of gambling, except those covered by investments, agreements with the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation or the PAGCOR. The standard setup of companies with both Filipino and foreign ownership is 60%, over 40% with Filipinos owning the larger share. The company must also be serving the local market. Under this, paid up capital can be less is the US dollar 200,000. However, some foreign entities may be interested in owning a bigger stake in a locally registered company. So for this, the following conditions have to be met. So there are the following conditions have to be met um, in this locally registered company. The first one is the foreign entity wants to own more than 40% of the domestic company. The second, the area in which the foreign entity wants to enter is not among those stated in the FINL or the Foreign Investments Negative List. And the last one is the area will serve the domestic market. So the required capital for the endeavor should not be less than 200,000 US dollar, and it can be lowered to 100,000 US dollar if the activities involve advanced technology or the company has at least 50 direct employees. So this will be the form of investments. Foreign investments can come in these forms: capital goods, patents, formulae, and other technological rights or processes. So here are the basic rights and guarantees for the safety of foreign investors. Under the Philippine Constitution, all foreign investors have the right to rather first, repatriation of investments. So, if there is a need for repatriation of investments, it has to be in the same currency as what was used when it was first invested, as well as in the same exchange rate of said currency during the time. The second is the remittance. So, remittance of earnings, interest payments, payment of loans made to foreign entities, and other obligations should also follow the same kind and exchange rate of currency for this remittance. The third is the freedom of expropriation. The government cannot seize property stemming from foreign investments for or unless these are meant for public use or for national in that case. Then the foreign investors can also avail of just compensation, still with the conditions of using the same currency at the time of investment and the prevailing exchange rate of that time. The last one is the non-requisition of investment. So no requisition of property stemming from foreign investments is allowed unless it was done in the event of a war or a national emergency, and also for that time. However, just compensation must still be made with the same conditions as set in the above mentioned instances. So that's all under the Foreign Service Act of 1991.